It began with silence, the kind of silence that filled a classroom not because everyone was studying, but because everyone was watching. At the back of the room, where sunlight barely reached, sat a girl whose presence was quieter than the ticking clock on the wall. Her name was Aisha, the kind of student people forgot existed until they needed someone to mock. Books clutched close to her chest, hair falling like a curtain to shield her face. She had mastered invisibility, but invisibility in a classroom full of predators only made her the easiest prey. The bullies had been circling her for weeks. Whispers about her clothes, her silence, her refusal to fight back, it was fuel for them. And today, in front of everyone, they decided to break her completely. A tall boy named Rehan, known for his arrogance and cruel smirk, leaned across her desk. His friends snickered behind him, waiting for the show. "Hey, mute girl," he hissed, tapping her notebook with the edge of his ruler. "Say something. Or do you not even know how to speak?" The class laughed, though a few looked away, uncomfortable but too afraid to intervene. Aisha's knuckles tightened around her pen, but her face remained blank. She didn't give them the reaction they craved. That was her strength, or so she thought. But bullies don't stop when you stay silent. They escalate, and Rehan escalated in the worst way. He grabbed Aisha by the throat. It wasn't playful, it wasn't a joke. His fingers pressed into her skin, cutting her breath, forcing her back against the chair as gasps echoed through the classroom. The teacher had stepped out for a meeting, so no authority would save her. For a second, Aisha's eyes widened, her body stiff as panic surged. The weight of years of silence, of being overlooked, of being underestimated. All of it crashed inside her. She was always the quiet one, always the one told to ignore them and stay calm. But something broke in that moment. Not inside her, but around her. Her silence cracked. Her fear burned away. And something else, something terrifying and powerful, rose in its place. With a speed no one expected from the quiet girl, Aisha's hand shot up. She didn't pry his fingers off her throat. No, she grabbed his wrist with a grip so sharp, so precise that his smirk froze. Then, with a twist so swift it was almost unnatural, there was a sound, an ugly, sickening crack that silenced the room instantly. Rehan screamed. His wrist bent backwards in a direction it was never meant to go. His friends stumbled back, their laughter vanishing into horrified silence. Aisha stood up, her eyes blazing for the first time, her chest rising with controlled breaths as if she had been waiting for this moment all her life. "Touch me again," she whispered, her voice low but carrying across the stunned classroom, "and you'll never use your hands again." No one had ever heard her speak. Not once. The fact that she spoke now in a tone colder than steel froze every soul in that room. Rehan cradled his twisted wrist, tears welling up in his arrogant eyes. His gang, once fearless, looked at her like they were staring at something far more dangerous than a quiet girl. They saw a predator. The silence was heavy, suffocating. No one dared move, no one dared laugh. Even the ticking clock on the wall seemed louder than anyone's breath. And in that silence, one thought burned in every mind. She wasn't the victim anymore. She was the storm. And that was just the beginning. The news spread faster than wildfire. By the time the teacher returned, the classroom was already in chaos. Rehan screaming, clutching his broken wrist, his friends pale as ghosts, and Aisha standing in the center like a shadow that had finally stepped into the light. The teacher froze at the sight, stammering for an explanation, but no one dared speak. They weren't just afraid of the punishment. They were afraid of her. For the first time, the quiet girl was no longer invisible. She was unforgettable. They tried to call it self-defense. They tried to convince themselves she had just gotten lucky. But deep down, every witness knew there was nothing lucky about what they saw. That wrist snap wasn't clumsy panic. It was clean. It was precise. It was dangerous. The principal's office buzzed with whispers. Aisha sat there silently, her posture calm, her gaze steady. Across from her sat the principal, the teacher, and Rehan's furious parents. His father slammed his fist on the table, shouting about lawsuits and expulsion. His mother wept about her son's pain. Rehan sat quietly, cast in a sling, his arrogance replaced with terror every time his eyes flicked toward Aisha. The principal sighed heavily. "Aisha, you've always been a quiet student. No trouble, no complaints. But this is serious. What happened?" Everyone leaned in, waiting for her response. But she said nothing. Her silence was no longer weakness. It was power. Her silence made them lean forward, desperate to understand, desperate to fill the void with their own fears. And then, after a long pause, she whispered, "I warned him." That was all. 3 words. Enough to send chills down every spine in the room. Rehan's father demanded she be expelled immediately. The teacher hesitated, caught between what was right and what was demanded. But the principal, strangely unsettled by her composure, said only, "We'll investigate further." He didn't dare provoke her. Nobody did. By evening, the story had reached every corner of the school. Some called her a monster. Some called her a hero. But everyone agreed, Aisha wasn't to be messed with. The bullies who once tormented her avoided her gaze in the hallways. Whispers followed her like shadows, but no one dared approach. But power attracts enemies. Late one afternoon, as she walked home alone, she sensed them before she saw them. Footsteps, too many, too close. She turned down a quiet alley and found herself surrounded. Rehan's friends. 4 of them, faces twisted with fear and anger. They couldn't let her humiliate their leader. Pride demanded revenge. "Think you're tough, huh?" One spat, gripping a metal rod. "You embarrassed Rehan in front of everyone. You'll pay for that." Aisha stood still, her expression unreadable. She dropped her school bag to the ground, the soft thud echoing louder than their threats. "Walk away," she said softly. They laughed. But that laugh lasted only seconds. The first boy lunged with the rod, swinging it toward her head. She sidestepped with frightening speed, her hand snapping out to grab his arm. With a twist, his shoulder popped, dislocated. He screamed, dropping the weapon. The second charged from behind. She spun, using the first boy's falling body as a shield, kicking the second squarely in the chest. He crashed against the wall, gasping for air. The third froze, fear flashing in his eyes, but anger pushed him forward anyway. He threw a punch, sloppy and desperate. She caught his fist mid-air, her grip like iron. Slowly, deliberately, she bent his fingers backward until he howled and dropped to his knees. The fourth, trembling, wide-eyed, dropped his knife before he even tried. We didn't know," he stammered, backing away. "We thought you were just quiet." Aisha stepped toward him, her presence suffocating, her voice low and steady. "And that's your mistake. Quiet doesn't mean weak. It never did." The boys scattered, dragging their injured friends with them. The alley fell silent again, except for the sound of Aisha's calm breathing. She picked up her bag, slung it over her shoulder, and walked away as if nothing had happened. But in her heart, she knew this wasn't over. Power never goes unnoticed. Someone somewhere would want to test her again. The question wasn't if, it was when. And as the camera fades, Aisha looks straight ahead. Not broken, not scared, but alive with a fire no one had ever seen before. The once invisible girl was now unstoppable. Viewers, if you've followed Aisha's journey from chapter 1 to here, you know this story isn't just about fighting bullies. It's about standing up, finding strength when the world thinks you're weak, and never letting fear control you. If this inspired you, smash that subscribe button right now, because more powerful stories are coming your way. Be part of this family. We rise together.